Hello and welcome to Opinion Roundup. I'm Associate Editor of the Moscow Times, Christopher Brennan, here with Opinion Page Editor of the Moscow Times, Michael Bohm, talking about the ongoing situation in Ukraine, which has some recent updates, as well as Mike's latest article, 6 More Russian Myths About Crimea. So starting off, Mike, I wanted to take a comment from one of our readers, Liberty Adrian, who took issue with your second point, your second myth that you busted about Russian taking Crimea, that agreements can be annulled, the president who signed them was weak, referring obviously to Boris Yeltsin and kind of the relations between Ukraine and Russia at that time. He says that the same sort of logic was applied to Yanukovych when Yanukovych fled and Kiev protesters took over earlier this year.
Yeah, I think he brings up a good point, actually. And I think it's unfortunate that the February 21st agreement wasn't signed.
Or honored.
Honored, exactly. Honored. I thought that was a reasonable compromise and agreement. For the opposition, they would have to wait 9 months, and there would be early elections, and clearly Yanukovych had no political future, and that would have been a diplomatic, peaceful way out. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but I agree with the reader. I think that the Budapest agreement should have been honored, and I think the February 21st agreement should have been honored.
So jumping forward to the present time, many government buildings in eastern Ukraine, the Donetsk region in particular, have been seized by pro-Russian protesters, separatists proclaiming the Donetsk People's Republic in eastern Ukraine. The question on everyone's minds is this Crimea 2.0? Is the same sort of annexation, Russian involvement going to happen in eastern Ukraine like it happened in Crimea?
No, I don't think so, because I think Putin knows that Russia can't afford eastern Ukraine. I think Putin has a different goal entirely, just to be a spoiler, just to make life difficult, to destabilize the situation, discredit the Orange Revolution 2 in Kiev. I mean, I think that's his main goal, is to be the spoiler, to get his comeuppance that he's against Orange Revolutions. And maybe there'll be another revolution, and maybe there'll be an opportunity to get a pro-Russian government in Kiev. But his objective, I think, is to make life as difficult as possible for Kiev. Kiev has enough problems right now, economic problems. Now you have territorial, political problems, and it may be too much for the Kiev government.
We had said before that we didn't expect kind of more activity in eastern Ukraine, and some would argue that this is the next move of Putin into eastern Ukraine. You view this as different than what happened before.
No, I think it is Putin's move, but I think it's limited. It's a limited special operation. I think it's just to bog down the Kiev government in political, territorial problems in addition to its economic problems. I don't think he has the goal of annexing, but I do think it's a Kremlin operation to make life difficult for Kiev.
So in your article you bring up kind of historical analogies to the U.S. Manifest Destiny, and its history has been brought up a lot by kind of pro-Russia people as well, talking about correcting historical injustices in Crimea and etc. In a place like eastern Ukraine, can you take this feeling of correcting a historical injustice, and can people back down from that? Or is there a non-violent way to kind of bring groups of people, kind of pro-Russian people and pro-Ukrainian people together?
Unlike Crimea, I don't think the Kremlin is peddling that reason, historical injustice. Putin mentioned it in his Crimea speech that those eastern parts of Ukraine were at one point, before the Bolshevik Revolution, were part of Russia. But it's really not an issue. I think for today, I think the real issue is supposedly protecting the rights of Russians against discrimination or violence.
A more ethnic-based.
Yeah, ethnic-based. But that brings up the other question: who are the ethnic Russians? And even the Kremlin gets a little confused, because they go back and forth between ethnic Russians and Russian speakers, which is a problem, because they're Russian speakers. There's Russian speakers all over the world. Is Russia going to intervene for Russian speakers in Brighton Beach? I don't know. In Kazakhstan. So I think if in Crimea there was some quasi-legitimate reason based on a historical injustice, in eastern Ukraine, clearly no.
Also looking forward to kind of what happens next in eastern Ukraine with Russia, the West, and Ukraine. in terms of finding a political solution, what do Western powers, Ukrainian authorities, and Russia how do they work this way out? Or, as Komsomolskaya Pravda said today, has civil war already started in Ukraine?
On certain issues, I think there's an easy agreement. For example, giving Russia the status of an official language. I think that's a giveaway. That shouldn't be a problem from either side. There's more thorny issues such as NATO membership. Lavrov wants neutral status. By the way, Ukraine had a neutral status under Yanukovych. That's going to be a lot harder now after the Crimean annexation.
In terms of eastern Ukraine, a lot of people are talking about federalization. Pro-Russian forces there are called, in Russian media, kind of people on the side of federalization of Ukraine. Is that something that Ukrainian authorities and the West is okay with?
I mean, the devil is in the details. What Russia means by federalization differs from what Ukraine and the U.S. wants. I mean, if it's a Russian version of federalization, like the Russian Federation, I think that's a reasonable offer. But I think the Russians want much more autonomy, basically a separation between the eastern parts of Ukraine and the rest of Ukraine. I don't think Kiev will ever agree to that.
Thank you for being on with us again this week, Mike. Make sure to follow the Moscow Times and themoscowtimes.com for all the information updates you need about Ukraine and Russia.